Welcome once again to Musings by Danon. If you're new here, my name is Danon. I've been watching anime since 1985 and am currently reading over 500 manga or light novel series. As someone who's read a lot of manga and seen a lot of anime, as well as studied genre and story structure, I feel I have a pretty good grasp on which manga are worth your time, depending on your tastes. Which brings us to the subject of today's video, light novel artists and their role in anime. But before we get started, I'd like to quickly ask you to like and subscribe. It really does help the channel, and it's free. With that out of the way, let's get into the video. A bit of backstory before we get into the meat of the video. Trust me, it'll all make sense. I've been obsessed with all things fantasy ever since I was a small child. Knights, dragons, wizards, castles, airships, you name it, I love it. The two games that most heavily influenced a young Danon were Dungeons & Dragons and Final Fantasy. Yes, I know I have a Magic channel, but I play Magic for the gameplay and not the lore. The same cannot be said for Final Fantasy. Remember, as someone who grew up playing Final Fantasy on the Nintendo, as well as Final Fantasy II and III on the Super Nintendo, I learned, along with the rest of America, when Final Fantasy VII came out for the PlayStation, that there were, in fact, several other Final Fantasy games that came out in Japan that we never got. So with that in mind, I will be using the numbering as it was when the games were first released in America. I know that 3 is 6 and 2 is 4, but when I was 14 and first played 3, I had no idea. Final Fantasy I caught my interest in a way no other game on the Nintendo had. Sure, Mario was fun and I could play all afternoon, but I never lost a weekend playing a game before. The idea that you could choose different classes at the start of the game, form your own party based on your playstyle, upgrade their equipment, learn new spells, grind experience to make your characters more powerful, go on quests to gain rewards. This was the coolest game I'd ever played. There was even a pretty interesting plot, at least for an 8-bit game. And then Final Fantasy II came out. It was a massive upgrade over the first game. You start out as a Dark Knight, which my little 11-year-old brain thought was the coolest thing ever. You then realized you're working for the bad guys and start going through a redemption arc, eventually class swapping to Paladin. Final Fantasy II is full of romance, revenge, redemption, twists and turns, and great characters. I loved every minute of playing it, convinced in my preteen brain that this was the greatest game of all time. Boy, was I about to learn otherwise. 3 years later, Final Fantasy III came out for the Super Nintendo. Nothing could have prepared me for this game. I mean, just look at that title page. Listen to it. It's gorgeous. Dark organ music with thunder in the background leading to the title of the game on fire? Are you kidding me? My 14-year-old brain melted, and we hadn't even begun to play yet. I'm not going to go into the plot for 3. Play it for yourself. The important part is the opening. After some exposition and cutscenes, there's a windy precipice, atop which 3 people appear, each piloting a mech known as Magitech armor. 2 of them are soldiers who willingly serve the Empire. The third is wearing some sort of enslavement crown on her head. The wind blows harshly as they exposit why they're at this mountain town, and then we cut to the opening credits. The 3 Magitech armors walk through a snowstorm, and the town slowly appears over the horizon. Remember, this was 1994. Obviously, video games have come a long way, but this scene, and this music, has stuck with me for almost 30 years. In Final Fantasy XIV, once you complete the main story for A Realm Reborn, the reward is your own Magitech mount. Not only that, but the music that plays while you're mounted is the same as the opening credits from Final Fantasy III. Is it my favorite mount in the game despite being easy to get? Absolutely. I've wanted one of these Magitech armors for almost 30 years, and I'm quite happy to pilot one. I tend to watch anime and play video games for the story rather than the graphics. As long as the story is good and the gameplay isn't awful, I'm happy. That being said, if the aesthetics are pleasing, it does make it easier to watch. Final Fantasy has had the same concept artist since the 80s, Yoshitaka Amano. This man is a master. Let's take a look at the side-by-side of the Magitech armor concept art and how it looks in Final Fantasy XIV. Remember, Amano drew this in the 90s for Final Fantasy III. Looking at his artwork got me thinking, what if there was an anime based on his artwork? I know that light novel artists don't do the character designs for anime, but character designers base their work off the original designs done by the light novel artists. Look, here's a side-by-side comparison for you. The light novel art is much more detailed. This can be seen over and over again. Anime, specifically made for TV anime, doesn't have the same time or money to make the characters look exactly like they do in the light novels. It takes a huge investment in order to make an anime look nearly as good as the light novel does. But the influence is undeniable. Part of what made Overlord look so cool was the wonderful dark fantasy art by Soben. The same can be said of Goblin Slayer and the artwork of Kanatsuki Noburo. But how cool would it be if we could have an anime based on the artwork of one of the great masters, Yoshitaka Amano? Just imagining how gorgeous the anime could be excites me. Well, it turns out there is one. And yes, it is gorgeous. Many would consider it to be one of the best animated movies of all time. I'm talking about Vampire Hunter D as well as its sequel, Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust. The Vampire Hunter D novels first came out in 1983. Here is the cover of the first book. Notice the art style? Here's that Magitech armor concept side by side. The visual aesthetics of Vampire Hunter D, like many anime, come from the artist chosen to draw these characters. It's one of the reasons I was so excited for The Eminence in Shadow and why I'm hoping Death's Daughter and the Ebony Blade eventually gets an anime adaptation. I mean, just look how cute Olivia is as she's lopping off heads. Adorable. It is easy to see the similarities in Bloodlust. Look at the gold inlay of the carriage and the shape of the windows. Look at Meyer Link's armor. Now, when the original aired, it's hard to see the art style when compared to Amano's work, but this was the 80s. For the 80s, the artwork and animation are top-notch, and if you know what you're looking for, you can see it at times, especially in the scene with the sirens. It wasn't until Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust, which was released 16 years later, that we can easily see his influence. Perhaps we should look at some more recent anime to see some more examples. With last summer's Black Summoner, you can easily see the art style coming through in the anime, especially in this scene with Colette salivating after receiving divine inspiration from Milfinia. Falls reincarnated as a sword matched this scene perfectly, with Fran and Shisho walking down the street together. Additionally, the design of Shisho was perfect, as you can see. Finally, this season's The Angel Next Door Spoils Me Rotten has some wonderful scenes taken straight from the light novel. You've got Mariharu sitting on the bench in the rain in the opening scene, but this one is probably my favorite. In any other anime, main girl coming over to main boy's house to help him clean and falling on him would have been some major ecchi moments with lots of blushing and bakas, but in this one, it was a character building moment. So what point am I trying to make? A lot of us who are anime fans will hear about an upcoming anime and look into the studio. If you're a more dedicated fan, you may even look deeper. Which director? Who's doing the music? Who's voicing whom? But then some of us look beyond that. We want to go directly to the source and read the source material, and with it, see the beautiful artwork that comes with the light novel, allowing the writer's characters to come to life. What's your favorite anime based on a light novel? Have you continued to read the story after the anime finished? What's your thoughts on the light novel compared to the anime? Thanks for tuning in. Once again, a huge shout out to my editor Cute Stuff. I couldn't make these videos without her. If you'd like to hire her to edit your own videos, there's a link to her Fiverr page below. If you're looking for ways to support the channel directly, you can head on over to patreon.com/Danon. There are several tiers to choose from. You can pick an anime or manga for me to do a video about, or you can join our monthly manga club. I also wanted to give a quick shout out to all of my patrons: Waffles, Jiraiya, Muffins, Marcus, Phoenix of Ice, Squishy, RGC, Brett, Ignis, Roxy, Brian, Josh, and Sean. You guys are awesome. I post anime or manga videos often, or you can click here to watch additional videos. If you're looking for Commander content, I split my channel last year, so all new Commander videos are over on my other channel, Commander by Danon. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all again next time on Musings by Danon.